All right, this will be a static video in that I don't have anything wired and running yet, but soon, okay? Here's the engine that we're putting together for the Corvette Royal Blue chassis. This is the milled out chassis on the milling machine, and repaired the rear wheels so they're not flashy, but we'll fix that later. I have everything on the puff and chuff, the board, the control board, and the switches there. I put back into the Fat Man magnets for max power because I know this is going to be a big engine. It's going to have to pull a lot. I put a new adapter down for the smoke unit, and I have an experimental smoke. I may or may not continue with this particular housing because it's new and I'm working on a design change. The original housings were more like this, all one piece, and then the PC board fits on top like that, and that holds that has the smoke logic, power logic, and the temperature sensor and the heater all in the lid. So that's pretty handy. What I was trying to do was get to a variation of that where the heat is contained into one element or one part. What I wanted to then do was create this with a carbon impregnated filament that could handle the heat and would hold its shape. So it would look something like that. And then the hair and everything would go in. The smoke would drain through the front. If I use this, I have to put a hole in the bottom so I can get the smoke oil to drain in, which I can do that. And then the lid would seal it on top, everything. I may or may not have time to get to that working yet. If not, I'll just throw in one of the old ones and set it up like I did the other two. And this one, it'd be like that. The other thing I had working was the puff and chuff controller, which we have on this engine, with the two switches running the switches for the fan driven smoke fan, where if there is track power and no motor energy to turn the engine, then the fan is set to a low speed idle, and so you get a trickle of smoke. If we start chuffing, at the signal of the chuff, it gets a big, strong push of air. When there is no signal for chuff, a big, strong push for air, it gets a break. So its fan is like, so you're going to get a nice, clean break in the smoke. Or it's going to get a trickle. And then this trigger is simply going to the soundboard for the chuff sound. So chuff, chuff. So every time you got the puff, you go puff, you go chuff, 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 and that breaks in between. Okay. Now, this engine is still in an experimental state because I'm using an ESP 3266, I believe, and a pulse width modulation DC motor controller. The ESP 3266 is a Wi-Fi board, meaning it has wireless capabilities, and I'm going to put that in place for wireless control on this engine. This engine is in process. It's not done, okay? What I am doing is taking the puff and chuff element and putting it in this engine without the wireless. So the motor controller will be like the motor controller we have here. Just steady. I'm letting the cat out of the bag too soon. This is the motor controller board that will control that motor. Same as we did with the other. Forward, neutral, reverse, neutral, that. Okay. Now that you've heard the story about the smoke and the plan for that, may or may not come, but it is in the wings, okay, to do this. This board As you can see, I have 3 wires plugged in. This is for that limit switch. This is power, idle, puff, and a power in. Okay. Then there's power in. Then there's out to the fan motor. And then this is the signal in on to the relay on what condition the engine is in. What condition is my condition in? Are we at idle at the station with power to the track? Are we off with no power to the track? Or are we running down the rails with power to the track? Those 3 states, this guy tells me what that state is, and then that changes the signal going to the motor. Okay. How this thing gets put together. This is the engine. Yeah, this is all engine. So there's a motor, there's a smoke heater, there's a fan for the smoke, and this is the puff and chuff logic board. Down here is the tender. Tender gets a mess. He has 2 buck boost boards. Those are volt regulators. There's a sound board. There's the motor control board, which I showed you here. Bingo, right? There's a power distribution board, which I don't have handy right now. Oh, there is one, but you can't see it. It's all messed up. Another day. Then there's a special board that I had to create to feed into E. As you see, E is power into the regulator, the logic for the regulator. How do we tell the regulator what are we in? Are we in off, on with no power to the motor, or on going down the track with the motor turning? Those are the 3 states, and this relay is how that feeds the logic, and that tells what the motor to do. Fan motor. It's complicated, but it works. It worked well on 2 engines. This will be my 3rd. Then I have a little bit of a logic thing here because I'm watching the signal off of the AC, off the track power. But in order to use that signal, I have to convert it to DC and send it into this logic system in the relay. So I've got a little diode cluster there, which is sort of a rectifier. Over here, I use 2 big rectifiers, which are devices. They're getting hot on me, and I'm going to talk to Andy about that. Do I need to come up with 1 big volt regulator that will handle the heat, not overheat on me? Not sure. But when I added all this stuff up and I started looking at the parts, I thought, holy moly, I don't know if I can put all that into that tender. Yeah? So, there's the tender. I'll try this with 1 hand. I take off the chassis, and there's not quite all the parts. I need to put a fan in here, and I need to put this little regulator here in here. Oh, and another regulator for 5 volts. 2 regulators, but they're small chips, I think. But it fits. Kinda. I mean, there it is. This board goes here. I can pull it out and put it there. It'll go there. Okay, fine. These boards go here. Hold on. My hand's getting caught up. I got it. It's coming. There we go. I got it. Kinda. And then the speaker, it's falling apart on me. It goes at the end. So there. It sort of goes like that. These 2 tuck in to one another. This is the power distribution board, and that's the controller. These are the 2 volt regulators. This is the soundboard underneath it, and this is the speaker in back. There's going to be a little room for a fan up front, and I got a little room right there for 2 additional chip level regulators, and that's it. And that's how this is going to look inside there. So so when these 2 chassis are getting built for test, that's what this engine's going to look like. Wow. It'll be fun. It'll be exciting. The soundboard's going to be what you've heard. It's going to be awesome. if I can get the triggers to work the way I want. I may have to diddle with the cam. I thought about how to get that signal a little sharper. If I have to, last resort, I may switch it over to magnet. That's not a big change, but I got to change the bracket. I may or may not fuss with the smoke, trying to use this little tin plate thing, which would fit in here like that, and that would be a metallized hot box, which I thought would be pretty cool. It does fit in there. I can't do it with one hand. And then all of this stuff, I'm pretty sure I got it now because good old Leon, I told him we need an extended tender, extended range. So I got more room for my crap, and he did it. And I think we're going to be just fine. I mean, it looks like it could work. And all the extra room. That's where we're going. Now, he did want me to go to the six-wheel tenders, six-wheel tender trucks, which I may or may not do. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, they are there. They do work. Is that the same? Yeah, it's basically the same length. It's a little longer, but it could work. So you see how it would look there versus there with the single blacks. I don't know. They'll probably be black no matter what. You guys tell me if you think it needs the six-wheel trucks or not. I'll think it over. I could switch them over to this one. I'm not sure what that engine's going to be, but I was thinking of Hudson or something maybe. Any case, there's where I'm at. Now I got to build all this up. I got to build this wiring up, hook it in, test it as I go. Each piece I test with either a battery or my power supply or isolated transformer. That way I know as I go along I'm not building 5 things in and 3 don't work. As I go, I test. And we'll get back to you. Right now, I'm going to have a shot of Gator Light and get to the fiddling with the soldering and fitting the components, thinking about the smoke and the wiring schematic for this board. What has to be added and where does it go? Yeah, nothing to it, huh? All right, later, gang.